Hello and welcome, and it's time for round 4 of season 14 of the GT3 Championship hosted by Apex Online Racing. This will be a review of the Tier 6 race taking place at Silverstone. The weather prediction looking really poor. Heavy rain throughout the entire race is predicted, including the qualifying session. But before we get to a look at how qualifying went, let's have a look at where we are with the Drivers' Championship. Coming away from Misano, Manuel Duque moved to the top of the table with effectively a second victory. He came third in round 1 at Kota, but the two drivers that came ahead of him got moved up to a higher tier. So he had a third, a second and a first. Officially now, he's got 50 points clear of Becchia in second place. Mine for Green Cow Racing moved up 1 place into third. He is now ahead of Steve Beswick. Myself from Beeswax Racing, I slipped down to 4th. Difficult time at Misano, got punted off the track, finished 14th in the end. Steve Banks moved up 4 places into 5th place. Great result for him at Misano, finishing 4th place. Now only 5 points behind the 833 Porsche going into this race at Silverstone. Lord Nem for Beeswax Racing moved up 1 place, taking 9th place at Misano. Mert Sevink moved up 5 places into 7th. James Peacock is one of those drivers who got moved up to a higher tier, so he's still on the table, but will slip away. He's slipped down another place to 8th place. Mike Willis in the Audi dropped down 1 place to 9th, and Don Clayton in the Porsche 992 moved up 1 place to just inside the top 10. For the Teams Championship, Gently Bentley Racing moved clear of the rest of the field. Those great results for Manuel Duque, giving him a good haul of points, and his teammate Paul Martin alongside him, now 78 points clear of the new second place team, Green Cow Racing. Matthias Acre and Mine have 274 points, just 2 points clear of Beeswax Racing. Myself and Lord Nem slipping down 1 place. If only Lord Nem had got his fuel calculations correct, then we may have held on to second for a little bit longer. In 4th place, it's CCS, Furax and Fraser Juveno, now 185 points adrift of the front three, so it's looking to turn into a bit of a 3-horse race coming into Silverstone. In 5th place, Rev Sport International, Adam Benjamin and Charlotte Perkins. Benjamin got a decent result at Misano, so finally got Rev Sport International underway really. Charlotte's been struggling, and that moved that team ahead of Visually Impaired Racing, who dropped down 1 place. Daniel Smith, Aero Smudge and Blind Guy Morphy now 13 points behind Rev Sport International, but it's looking fairly close between 4th, 5th and 6th. And unfortunately, rounding out the table, Nighthawks, James Sterrett and Charles Harding still yet to get some points on the board this season. So let's have a look how qualifying went. It was heavy rain for qualifying, and the timing was everything for when you did your lap. So on row 1 in 1st place, it's Manuel Duque again in Gently Bentley, and the Bentley Continental really is looking a bit too strong, it feels, this season. Always at the front of a race, and this time he did a time of 2:08.912. Second place alongside him, Charlotte Perkins. Really good result there for Rev Sport International, just 0.123 seconds behind Duque. On the second row, Paul Martin, the other Bentley for Gently Bentley, is just 0.133 behind Paul. Alongside him is Rudolf Dravnieks in a McLaren, a new driver to the tier. At row 3, Adam Benjamin, Rev Sport International, is in P5. Alongside is Kukulat Barigia in P6. Row 4, Kamil Becchia is in 7th place. He really needs to do well this race, currently second in the championship coming into this round, so you want to go forward from there. And Dan Smith, Aero Smudge, Visually Impaired Racing, really pulls it out of the bag and qualifies in 8th. On row 5, Steve Banks is there just ahead of myself, Steve Beswick for Beeswax Racing. I qualified in P10th. And again, that's a tight battle. Steve Banks coming up close. He's just outside. He's in P5 in the Drivers' Championship going into this round. So everybody's battling away there, looking at the top 10 for qualifying. But that's where we'll start the race, and let's cut over now to see how the action unfolded at Silverstone. You join us as the drivers are commencing the lineup, and just visible in shot then, the driver who qualified on P2, Charlotte Perkins in a blue car. You can see bad connection, car zooming around all over the track, and that's apparently been Charlotte's issue all season, where we've not seen her in the results. She's got connectivity issues at her end, so as the drivers complete lining up for the start, Charlotte's gone, presumably to return to the pits with significant connection issues. That opens the way for Dravnieks, who's in P4 in the black McLaren, to make a bit of a move at the very start of the race. Paul Martin there in P3 falling right back inside the... is there a Porsche behind him? It's so merged inside it's hard to tell. It's an Aston Martin actually of Benjamin. And into the first corner. Duque capitalising on a pretty empty front row for him to move clear. Dravnieks moves through into second place. Paul Martin tucks into third. Let's have a quick look further down the field with Lord Nem. They're all through the first set of corners clearly at that part of the group. Back down to Clayton. And again, it looks like most people got through the first set of corners cleanly, which was a difficult challenge in these weather conditions. Lots of spray and very difficult for everybody to see. Duque moves into the first time down through Hanger Straight, and he's already clear of the field. And the Bentleys, there's been a lot of chatter in the paddock about the new ballast system coming in and how the Bentleys do seem to be overperforming, and they've got a very generous bop. And Duque well clear of P2 already. They were alongside each other, and Paul Martin was nearly past Dravnieks as well there, going down Hanger Straight. Gives a little tap to the back of the McLaren as they go through Club. And onto the Hamilton straight up towards Abbey. Duque well clear now. Paul Martin threatening that second place of Dravnieks. Behind him, it's Benjamin. With that, looked like Charlotte may have dropped out of the race already, so really difficult for Rev Sport International to get further points in this race. But he goes through on Dravnieks, Benjamin. Good pass, and Paul Martin must have got through on Dravnieks as well. Dravnieks dropping back there just as we looked a little further down the field. So it's Duque. Dravnieks dropping back into P4. Paul Martin now in second. Benjamin coming through as well to take third place. So not a great first lap for Dravnieks. Dropping to fourth. Barrija in the 73 Ferrari is in fifth. Behind him is Becchia going into this round in second place in the Drivers' Championship. Mine is behind him, so he'll be happy about that at the moment. Banks is in P7. Smith, Aero Smudge is in P8, doing well there for visually impaired racing. Struggled with good results of both of the AOR drivers this season, but coming out of the first lap into P8. Mine is in 9th place. And Steve Bezic for Beeswax Racing, myself in 10th. Need good points in this race. Started to slip down the drivers' table for the championship, so need to try and capitalise, but it's been really, really difficult on this track. The Porsche just goes wide there, just doesn't grip, goes wide, spins out, and that's a disaster for Beeswax Racing just on lap 2 already. Tries to get it back round and recover, but the whole field is going past, and it takes time to get the car back into the field. So that'll be almost right down the back of the field there. That's Mercedes just in front. Is that Brisniaks? Is indeed. So the Beeswax Racing 833 car will tuck back in at least 20th place, losing 10 places there with that spin. Out front now, Duque moving clear of the field, 2 seconds clear. Paul Martin in second place, still has Benjamin for company. So Gently Bentley 1 and 2, and the Rev Sport International with P3. Dravnieks not in a team, solo driver is in P4 still. He's got a 1.3 second clear of Barrija in 5th, who's got Becchia for company, pretty close behind, and Spanks is in P7. Becchia will want to move forward if he's going to try and bring any sort of fight to Duque in the championship. Mine's still well behind him down in P9. And he's got Aero Smudge right in front of him there. Polivka moved into P10 once the Beeswax Racing Porsche went off right at just through cups at the start of the second lap. Lord Nem, the other Beeswax driver, P14. Burax for company. Looks like they're coming down towards Club, possibly. Or is it Luffield? I think it's Luffield they're going into right now. Just at the back of the pack there. That's Irwin, who's a new driver into the league on this race. I think we've had a few new drivers join. Flicks back slightly. Furax having a look at the back of Nem. Looks on the outside, but they'll be on the outside for Cops. No way through there. Tries the inside, but they'd be very, very brave to make a move there, as a few Formula 1 drivers have demonstrated. Furax tries to get a better exit, but I think Lord Nem will carry more speed there going into Maggots and Beckett's. And indeed he does. Irwin in the background. If these two come together, he will definitely be able to capitalise. BMW able to take a lot of the curb and the grass there through Maggots and Beckett's. Keeps clear of the Ferrari as they come out and down Hanger Straight. Don't think Furax has got much of a chance there. Doesn't look like you get an overdrive coming to the end of Hanger Straight and through Stowe, one of the best passing places on the circuit. Accurate, meanwhile, gets through. He's trying to get through on Polivka. Can't see the BMW in shot there unless it's the one ahead. Yes, it is. Number 12. Polivka, Accurate, 22 is the Aston Martin behind. Meanwhile, mine still hanging out the back of Aero Smudge. It was Green Cow Racing versus visually impaired racing. And where is Morphy? Morphy, very confident going into this race. Had some brilliant practice races. Was getting some good times out of the Ferrari. But unfortunately now he's circulating down in 31st. He's had a difficult first lap. I am aware he slew wide right on the opening going in through Maggots. And tapped the back of my Porsche. And ended up spun round and the whole field went past him, and I think he got some damage as well. So Morphy's race ended very early on, really. He's got a long way to come back from P31st. And the other driver who's had a difficult first or second lap in my case was myself, now down in P20. Trying to catch up with Bereznieks ahead of us. Got a little pack there. Try and get through. Banks, meanwhile, up ahead. He's still trying to stay in contact with Becchia. P6 and P7, and Benjamin keeps chasing the Bentley of Duque. And what we've noticed, I think, across all the tiers as the season has progressed, is the cars that have quite a generous bop in their favour, the Bentley and the Aston Martin, starting to move to the top of all the tiers. You can see it across the board. There's Astons and Bentleys moving towards the top of the tables in all those different tiers. So I think maybe something for the AOR backroom staff to look at in regards to the system, and is it working or is it over-favouring certain cars, because it certainly feels that way from where you look at the results and the way the races are going. But Duque clear now, 1.4 seconds clear of his teammate in P2. Benjamin trying to get through on Martin. Ravnieks dropping back slightly, a gap of 1.4 seconds at the previous sector marker. Looks a little bit closer, but it is seem to be yo-yoing up and down. And another further 1.5 seconds back to Berija. Becchia getting closer to the Ferrari. Becchia doing extremely well. The Lamborghini usually has quite a heavy ballast penalty to slow it down, but Becchia keeps pulling the results out. Trying to catch Berija up ahead in the Ferrari, another car that gets a lot of weight penalty. And the McLaren of Banks in P7. Smudge dropping back from that group of three now. Gap now 1.47 seconds at the last sector marker, but he's got mine for close company, and he's probably having to defend quite a bit, and that will be costing him some time. Mine has got through, actually. I didn't really pick up on that when I first came back, so mine did find a way past Smudge in the end. Now mine will want to pick up the pace, try and catch up with Banks up ahead. Gap 2.5 seconds. Some work to do there, but we're only 4 laps in. This is an hour-long race for this round, with the usual mandatory pit stop for tyres, but no fueling allowed. Lord Nem, meanwhile, has made it through to P12. Now just 0.4 of a second behind Burks in the BMW. Further down the field, Seller for CCS. Seller is in CCS, but he joined the league a little bit late, and there's 3 CCS drivers, so he can only have 2 per team. Well, Furax, who's currently in P13, and Juveno, who's in P20, just in the behind the Porsche of Beeswax there in this shot. They are the CCS team. So Seller is a member of the CCS squad, but not actually in a team for this race. Struggling a little bit in the BMW, and he's really lost speed there. must have made a mistake coming out of Maggots and Beckett's, and that's opened the door, and they're streaming past Sella. 3 cars go past him, and I think there'll be a 4th in the background with the Aston Martin and that Ferrari in the background as well. He didn't have a look at Schmijak. BMW back up to speed. Oh, and the Porsche, 833 Porsche goes wide there, going through Stowe. And the Mercedes, the Briznieks, now moves through to the 4, showing in P17. But that'll be Juvenot that's tucked in behind him. And the 833 Porsche or Beeswax behind Juvenot. So there'll be 18th for Juvenot, 19th for Beeswax. Sella drops back in the BMW, back down to 20th. So disastrous exit from Maggots and Beckett's onto Hanger Straight. Saw the car virtually come to a stop, and they all just stream straight through. The Mercedes, the Briznieks, trying to defend there. Got Juvenal all over the back of him, little tap as they go through Village. Back out onto the Wellington Straight now, up towards Brooklands. Mercedes stretching away a little bit from the Ferrari of Juvenal behind. And you see the Porsche there at the 833 sliding in the corners, trying to keep the slightly lighter Aston Martin of Ackerate behind, but struggling. Come out on the Hamilton Straight out of Club. Was that Cops? Everywhere in Silverstone looks the same. Yeah, it was Cops. Through Maggots and Beckett's they go. And will they all get a clean exit this time? See a whole chain of cars there, all one after another. Juvenot is trying to have a look at Brznieks. He's gone very defensive on the right hand side of the track. Juvenot pulls over to the left to try and take the wider line through Stowe. Oh, very nearly came together there in the middle of a corner. The Mercedes is trying to hang on, but Juvenot's definitely got the better and faster line as they go down towards through Vale and towards Club. And Juvenot takes the place away from the Mercedes. The rest of the pack are lining up behind. The 833 Beeswax is now behind Brznieks. And Ackeray as well, lining up behind them. They exit out onto Hamilton Straight again. And this time we have got the right part of the track. They go through Abbey and into the Village Complex. See that Porsche just drifting wide again. Nightmare to drive at Silverstone in the rain was the Porsche. Every corner it was just sliding out. Juvenot leads them through. Oh, and Brznieks makes a huge mistake there in the Mercedes. Almost came to a stop. And it 833 Porsche dives straight through. Ackeray was not close enough to be able to take advantage, but Brznieks having a really difficult few laps now, dropping back down the field. The Porsche mucks it up, makes a huge mess of going into Luffield out of Brooklands and loses loads of places. So all that work to move up the field is thrown away. Rear end stepped out, had to rejoin right down the pack. So Brznieks gets the place back. Bizak trying to have a look at Ackeray, but not getting through. Sella there in the background in the BMW. Then Senna in the Lamborghini, switching to the Lamborghini for this race. Was in the Mercedes, if I recall correctly, previously. So Senna will have lost any championship points he has by switching cars. And it does make it more difficult to keep track of who is where, but the 833 Porsche nipped through on Senna very quickly there to try and get those places back. Not having a great start to this race. That's the second time we've seen the Porsche just slide straight off the track. And now down in 22nd place, having qualified in 10th, so not looking great at all for Beeswax Racing on this race. Lord Nem, though, for Beeswax doing a bit better. He's promised me this week he has got his calculator out in advance of the race and has put the right amount of fuel in, which is good because there's no refueling allowed in this one. Hooked up behind Burks. So Burks did get past the BMW of Lord Nem. I believe the positions were reversed, weren't they, earlier when we looked at them? No way through yet. It's out front into his 7th lap. It's Manuel Duque. Like is the that's the pit entrance for the Formula 1 grid, I think. Nope, it's the pits for us, so he's just starting a new lap, going through Woodcote, is it? And up towards Maggots and Beckett's. So Duque's lead now is 2.6 seconds over his teammate Paul Martin, who's a further 1 second clear of Benjamin. So the threat from the Aston Martin has dropped away slowly from the Bentley up ahead to go through Maggots and Beckett's. And Benjamin reasonably comfortable. There's a 1 second buffer between him and Dravnieks. The cars out front have stabilised on those gaps. Further 1.7 seconds behind is Barriggia, but Barrigia's under a little bit more pressure. He's got a little train behind him. Becchia right on his bumper. Behind him, Banks, and just a little bit adrift, having closed up the distance, having got past having got past Aero Smudge in the Mercedes. It's Mine, the other Green Cow Racing driver. His teammate Accurate struggling down in 19th in this race, but Mine currently in 8th and closing up on the leading group. Barriggia managing to stay a little bit clear. And what's happened there to Becchia? Nothing, just me getting confused. Barriggia's livery. Something's happened. Is that a back marker? Just ahead of Becchia? It is indeed at P13. Furax. How's Furax got in front of Becchia there? Is well out of position. Surely they can't have lapped that soon. So something's happened to Furax there because he's suddenly in the middle of the leaders. That must be a lap down. I think we may well see a big change of position for Furax in a second. He must have had a big off. Suddenly be in the middle of the leaders. I thought I was seeing things for a second. Furax now showing P11. Becchia behind him in P12, so it's Becchia who had the problem. Becchia went off and lost a lot of places. Let's have a little cheat, and for once we'll nip back and see what happened, because Becchia was well up the field there. There he is behind Banks. So whatever's happened, this is just before it happened. So we're coming through start finish and into Cops, through safely, and Cops. Banks a little bit further behind. The gaps look good, which is why I didn't expect anything to happen. Through Maggots and Beckett's they go. And something happens to Becchia. A little bit of sliding there from a Lamborghini, and Banks closes straight into the back of the bumper, so they are getting quite close together. Has come out onto the hanger straight, going down towards Stowe. Barriggia comfortably, but Becchia gets a good drive there on down the hanger straight. Does start to close in on the back of Barriggia, and Banks gets close as they go through, and there it happens. Banks hits the back of Becchia and off he goes, speared off into the grass, and that's what happened to Becchia to put him down near Furax from CCS. He's having a difficult time recovering on the grass. He's coming back on. Oh, and he's right in the racing line. He clips Lord Nem from Beeswax Racing. Lord Nem into the wall heavy. And Becchia then rejoins, gets back up to speed. And that's how he ended up behind Furax. So there's a lot of places there for Becchia. That's P2 in the championship. Really struggling now. So if that puts him right down the field, we know Duque is pretty well clear of the rest of the group in the championship, being going into this round 50 points clear of Becchia. And now Becchia further down the field. The real driver who wants to try and benefit from this is Mine. Mine currently third in the championship. Now will gain a place with Becchia dropping down. He's now into 6th place for Mine. He's got ahead of Banks somehow in all that confusion. the Banks in the background. So Mine really in a position here to try and move up the championship. The difference between Mine and Becchia coming away from Misano was only 29 points. And right now, Becchia has slipped all the way down into 12th place. It was a little tap from the back into the back from Banks, and he didn't hit the wall, so he won't have any substantial damage to worry about, but he has lost a lot of places. In a track that, ironically, certainly in these weather conditions, is actually quite difficult to do some passes. You can end up in quite the train and stuck trying to get through on people. Mine now, his next target will be Harija in P5. But up ahead, the gaps are quite large. And where did Lord Nem end up after that? And that looked a heavy hit into the wall. He's down in P27. So he won't be pleased about that. I think he was P14 at the time, so he's lost a ton of places. So really bad race at Silverstone so far for Beeswax Racing. Lord Nem clipped there and put into the wall. And a bit of strategy coming in for the other Beeswax racer. We're only about 15-20 minutes into this race, and the Porsche's boxed already to clear the traffic and get out of the spray. Because lap times were not great in traffic. Really held up. Very difficult to see the brake markers and the apexes of the corners. So the 833 making a decision. What have we got to lose? A bit of a Williams type strategy. Let's drop out the field. Let's get new tyres on. Let's get a clear track and let's see what we can do. But that's going to put them right down towards the back end of the field. We're already in P24 as cars go through, slipping down to P25. So that is a big ask from the Beeswax Racing team to try and recover from that. Steve Banks, meanwhile, trying to close in on Mine at the front of the field for 6 and 7. But still showing a bit of a gap there. Now it's over a second, so Mine moving well clear. Closing in nicely on Berija. Still a long way to the front of the field. Berija's got a 3-second gap onto Dravnieks, who's currently P4. But Mine does have his work cut out if he's to get right in there with the points. The Bentleys at the moment running away with this. Both of the Bentleys now 2.4 seconds clear of Benjamin in the Aston Martin in P3. Looks to be getting a bit of... Oh, is that Dravnieks? Sorry, in the background. In the shot, yeah, Dravnieks looks to be closing up a little bit there on the Aston Martin in the way these shots are coming out. Mine closing right up on the back of Berija. Right up on the back of Berija there, going through that corner. That looked to beat Maggots and Beckett's, didn't it? Yeah, they're coming down Hanger Straight now. Can Mine get a toe up towards Stowe and make a move? Looks like he's going to. Looking up the inside, but he wasn't close enough. Put the Ferrari off, though, maybe. Trying to slightly outside line. The Ferrari's got good drive out of Stowe. Down through Vale and up towards Club. Usually no way through on Club unless you try a bit of a suicide dive up the inside. Coming round onto the Hamilton straight. Banks hanging around in the background hoping he can capitalise. Over the line they go. The Formula 1 grid start. Into the village complex. Looks like Berija's got a comfortable couple of car lengths there to get through village without looking over his shoulder too much. Round towards the Wellington Straight. Well, the question of can Mine get a good exit and a good run on the Ferrari of Berija. Banks hanging around in the background, trying to stay in contact with these two and doing a good job. Gap behind these three now to Polivka, who's in P8, is 8.6 seconds. So certainly the front seven in a bit of a separate race to the rest of the field at the moment. Through Luffield and Woodcote up towards Copse, and it doesn't look like Mine is anywhere near close enough at the moment. He'll want to focus trying to get onto the back of the Ferrari through Maggots and Beckett's and trying to get a good run around Hanger Straight. Certainly Hanger Straight here at Silverstone is one of the easiest places to try and make a pass. If you can get that good exit from Maggots and Beckett's and get a good run down Hanger Straight, you can get on the inside Stowe and make that pass before you get through Vale and Club. It looks like he's close. Will that Ferrari get a good run down Hanger Straight again? I'm sure that mine was a little bit closer on the previous lap. See the two Bentleys up ahead, just out of shot. Porsche, actually, is that the Beeswax Racing Porsche having rejoined the track? It could well be. Or it could be Trappiana. Oh dear, Trappiana's got a stop-go 30. Trappiana's not having a great race, and it was Trappiana's Porsche we saw off in the distance. So Trappiana, unfortunately, has been struggling, currently down at the back of the field, but he's got a stop-go 30 now, so his race is really going down the toilet. He's having a very, very difficult time. Speeding in the pit lane is what you get a stop-go 30 for. So he's not hit that pit limiter in time. The entry into the Silverstone pits can be quite tricky. You have to slow down quite a long way, really, before the line, or you'll lose control, especially in these wet conditions. So Trappiana really having a difficult time. Morphy too, still in 32nd, has been unable to make much of an impression. We're able to get really good lap times in practice and the practice races in the Ferrari, but it's just not happening in the actual event itself. Long, long way down the field, stuck behind Willis in the Audi. And the Beeswax Racing Porsche is all the way down in 29th place. It's difficult to see at this point how there's any way back from a 29th place to anywhere near the front of this race in any decent haul of points. So going into this round, 833, Beeswax Racing was in P4 in the Drivers' Championship. Looks like there's no hope whatsoever of holding on to that at this time. Long, long, long way down the field. It's a 37-second gap. Elford, who's in P27. Lord Nem as well. We saw him get clipped, go heavy into the wall. That BMW looking a little bit battered. Down in P26, so a really bad race for Beeswax Racing. Our third in the Teams Championship going into this round. CCS, though, were 185 points behind, so Furax for CCS currently in P10. Close behind Burks. May well get that position. The way this race is panning out. Burks has also been moving forward. Paul Martin is in the pits. That's why he's showing down in P7. Thought something may have happened to him then. So Paul Martin pits. I think from P2. And his teammate Duque continues to lead out the race. Mine in P4 now. Still trying to get through on Zdravniak. So cars are starting to pit, and that's really going to mix things up. And mine in P4. Berija's down in P6. So, yeah, that would be about right. Zdravniak was in 4th, wasn't he? Oh, it's just Paul Martin who's affected the lead. Benjamin for Rev Sport International slips into P2. So the order is as we would expect. So CCS against Beeswax. Furax now P9 as the pit stop starts coming. Juvenile for CCS is in P14. Having a very difficult time there on that corner. Goes very wide. Moves it round. Trying to figure out where he is on the circuit. Go for the long shot, aren't we, to figure it out. Goes under the bridge. Could be on Hanger Straight. Oh, he's got a bend coming up. Yes, he's going through Club. No, Luffield and Woodcote is going through, so he's just finishing his lap. And there's a pit entrance. That was difficult to work out. Juvenile in P14. Nobody around him really. Accurate. Moving forward slightly as drivers start to pit, but he's been a little bit of a difficult time on this race. And in P15 now, but I think all the pit stops will need to happen and the order settle out again. Out front, Duque leads the race now with a 4 0.1 second gap over Benjamin in P2. Duque starting to lap some of the other cars. He's got Willis there in the Audi just in front of him. Willis down in P32, and another driver's got a stop-go 30. Senna has been having a very difficult time. Has watched Duque go through on the inside of Willis nice and cleanly, but Senna's had an awful season. Struggled a little in the Mercedes, decided to switch to the Lamborghini, but yeah, he's down towards the back of the field, and he's also made a mistake on his pit stop, and speeding in the pit lane will attract you a big penalty. Trippiano's still going around showing that stop-go 30. You've only got 3 laps to serve a penalty, or you will get disqualified instantly. So he needs to get in and serve that penalty sooner rather than later. He's also got the leaders there coming up behind him, because that looks like mine. Green Cow Racing in P4 at the moment. So he won't want to be interfering, I think, with the leaders. Or if this is Luffield running at the moment, he should. There he goes. He goes into pull. Pulls across into the pit lane to serve that stop-go 30. Now in mind to clear. It looks like Duque is in the pits as well. Benjamin carries on through, takes the lead of the race. But Duque's lead over the rest of the field was pretty comfortable for him to not have to rush his pit stop and emerge out safely. The only question might be if he comes out into a lot of traffic. But the field getting reasonably well spread out now. Burks is almost a second behind Burks, so Burks has managed to pull away and open that gap up a little bit. P9. Duque starts to move away. Senna in the background there, having just done that stop-go 30. Was end of the pit lane, getting back up to speed. Interest here being if Duque comes out behind a little group of traffic, he may have trouble, but it looks like it's going to be a nice, clear, empty track for him, so no problems for the leader as he rejoins the track, serving his mandatory pit stop. Through Maggots and Beckett's he'll go. It looks like it may have been Kaminsky. It does take a time for the computer to settle itself out. So timing was good there to see 4 cars now not too far behind Duque. And that looks like Paul Martin in the background as well. So he's got 3 cars between him and his teammate at the moment. Paul Martin, yeah, showing P20. So I think none of the cars between the two of them were affecting the lead. Schmijak and Yi, the Porsche driver, not towards the front of the field. So I think that both of these drivers have yet to do their pit stop. So they will drop away from Paul Martin and Duque. Oldham appearing in shot briefly in the background. He's got Trippiano in front of him, who's a lap down. Oldham back up to P19. Clayton's got a stop-go 30. The other Porsche driver has made a mess. Irwin's got disqualified somehow. That's very difficult to do at Silverstone. Not like Misano. Unless he really managed to chop straight across Maggots and Beckett's. Perhaps to get a disqualification. But Irwin disqualified in his first race out. So not gone the way he would have wanted at all. Clayton in the Porsche had a bit of a disaster. He sped in the pit lane. It looks like all the Porsche drivers are having a really hard time on Silverstone. Trippiano right down the back of the field. Clayton was not featured at all so far in the race. We focused perhaps towards the front 10 or the front 15. So Clayton clearly struggling as well at Silverstone. Now got a stop-go 30. We'll put him right down towards the back of the field. Beeswax Racing we've seen just slide off the track twice. And Yi going into the pits on P17, but he's going to come out a long way down. So the Porsche not working well at Silverstone at all, certainly in Tier 6. Benjamin, meanwhile, at the moment has the lead. Clayton pulls right over. He knows his race is pretty much done, so no reason to interfere with the leaders. Gravniet's close behind on Benjamin, but that's been true for a long time in this race. But close the gap up to 0.7, and it's an 8.5 second gap. Oh, Burks has got a stop-go 30. He's in the pits now, so that must have been He's serving that now, so Burks, who's in P9, has dropped, must have come in for his pit stop and has got it wrong completely in a really good top 10 position. Looks to have been ruined with a stop-go 30 penalty. You can see him tumbling down the field, so Burks out of the top 10 with what must be a big mistake, and I think that may have been in too much for him. It looks like Burks just dropped out the race as it snaps back to the Beeswax racing car, so he clearly lost his temper with whatever happened. He saw a good top 10 finish snatched away from him due to a mistake going into the pits. So in the meantime, Dravniaks takes the lead of a race as oh, where's he gone? Wasn't Akare who was in the pits. It was is the Rev Sport driver Benjamin. Where's he gone? There you go. Benjamin's in the pits, allowing Dravniaks to come through to the lead. Barija also in the pits. Just really waiting on Dravniaks now, and the lead should start to settle itself out. Pavlivka is also boxing. Conley is flattering to deceive in P5. He's also yet to box. Same with Aero Smudge, who is in the pits. So everybody deciding now is the time, and this is when Beeswax Racing's strategy in 833 really needs to pan out. So boxed super early to try and clear the traffic. Came out in P29, now showing P16. Quite surprised to see Becchia just in front of me. I remember that in the race, wondering what had happened to Becchia to put him down in P15. So P2 in the championship, Becchia, and P4 in the championship, Beeswax. Right down in the middle of the field. Kaminsky at P17 is 8 seconds adrift of the 833 Porsche. It's all about who is ahead as we go. We saw a lot of cars in the pits, and this is the real crunch point for this strategy. How many cars can get past? I only see one there actually in the pits. There's Lord Nem. Come through on that, because Venus down in P25 gets a drive through, and that is Thurax, I think, just ahead, coming out of the pits to re-emerge. So it looks like it is going to settle down to P16. So made up 13 places from when we boxed, but this was about where the 833 Porsche was before it boxed. They were about to P20th, wasn't it, with the mistake that was made going through into Brooklands. Rafinus gets a drive through. It's really going badly for a lot of drivers. A lot of errors here that perhaps could have been avoided, but it might be down to the wetness. I remember I got a cut warning when I slid here, coming out of Copes. I slid off the track, spun, stalled, and got a cut warning. I'm not sure quite how I'd save time by losing 10 places, but I got a cut warning for that and another cut warning as well when I went off the track and lost several places. So you get some weird cut warnings at Silverstone that end up giving you a drive through like Carafinas has. Clayton's still got that stop-go 30 to do. Irwin's been disqualified. We've seen multiple drive-throughs and stop-goes coming down the field. But Dravniaks hangs on out there, taking the glory shot just like Nins like to do, of staying out and taking P1 for a few laps. Lord Nem for company in the background, but Lord Nem definitely at least a lap down. Duque waits for those two ahead, both the McLarens of Dravniaks and Conley to box. Now got 5-second lead over Benjamin and a 7-second lead over Paul Martin, so clearly going wrong on his pit stops again. That lead was only 2-3 seconds, I think, going into the pit stops. Paul Martin pitted early, perhaps came out in traffic, but lost out. But Benjamin jumped him in the pit stop, so Benjamin slips into P2, 2.6 seconds clear of Paul Martin in the Bentley. So he's managed to upset the order a little bit there. Conley has boxed and re-emerges. I think he will settle down a bit further down the field than where he is at the moment on the computer once it settles itself out. Hein still in 5th, wanting to do better. He's got 6.5 seconds to catch P3 Paul Martin. He's looking good for points in terms of a Drivers' Championship. Going into this round, he'd managed to move up to P3. That Senna off the track there. I think it was Senna in the background just as mine went through then. So mine is P3 going into this round in the Drivers' Championship for Green Cow Racing, having come second in Misano and taking a victory at Zandvoort. So bad first round in Kota, finished P17, but that first and that second place really accelerated him up the Drivers' Championship. P3 just 29 points behind Becchia, but Becchia also trying to recover, now down in P11 after that tap on the back and losing places. Beeswax Racing, P33, that strategy really is starting to play out nicely, now in P14. And that's definitely an unusual line there, taken by where's that? I know who there is. It wasn't Schmijak, it definitely wasn't Morphy, it wasn't Juveno. It was a Ferrari, wasn't it? No, it wasn't a Ferrari. It wasn't Civink. It wasn't Becchia. It's McLaren. I'll go for every single car on the track to figure out who it was. Well, it was definitely an unusual line taken ahead of the Beeswax Racing Porsche, who's now in P13. Oh, he's just ahead there, 210, getting a little tap. It was a Conley. A Conley took a very unusual line, and I think may have gotten in the way a little bit. I don't know what happened. He's into the pits. He's having a difficult time, a Conley there. Unfortunate for him, we cut to him just as he scooted right across the track. So Beeswax now in the P13. Akre behind, Kaminsky behind Akre, I think was losing a position just as we saw him. Fighting now with Civink. Akre trying to hold on. He's been dropping down the field a little bit. You can see Kaminsky just ahead there in the yellow and white McLaren. White and red McLaren. A little wiggle there from the back of Civink's Lamborghini. Kaminsky's Polish, I think, which would explain the red and white of his livery on his car. But Akre looks to have stabilised things there. Whereas Civink is a second behind now, going through the next sector. So the Beeswax Racing car, P13, down from P29 at one point. 2 excursions off the track, so this is not too bad a recovery drive. 3.2 second gap to Juveno for CCS in P12, and Becchia trying to recover now up to P11. He's also got CCS driver ahead of him, Furax. A couple of seconds down the road. Aero Smudge. Clearly getting himself back up to speed is Aero Smudge. Took a long break from racing and has returned this season. Used to be quite a nippy driver, so I was quite surprised to see him in Tier 6. Teaming up with Morphy for visually impaired racing, but now he may be getting his legs back perhaps. He's currently in P9, looking comfortable. He's a 5-second gap ahead to Parija in P8, but he's 2.7 seconds ahead of Furax behind him, so he just needs to keep his head down and keep motoring along and keep that gap stable behind. Might be a tall ask to close in on Parija up ahead. 5 seconds is quite a long way when you've not got that many laps left to go. So out front, P1 has settled into Duque. He's now got a 5.4 second lead over Benjamin. Oh, be careful, Conley. Conley's been having quite the adventure on this race. I'm sure he'll be pleased to be featured. No more excursions like last time. I think he may have been Village where he decided that going through Village was boring and he'd managed to find a nice shortcut. Maybe that's how a disqualification happened. If you did cut right across Village going the Wellington Straight, maybe the game wouldn't like that at all. But Duque leads out 5.4 second over P2 Benjamin. Sure, Conley won't interfere with the leader coming through. Been pretty close. We go through. Yeah, there you go. Conley pulls over nicely as the exit onto what I believe will be Wellington Straight coming out of Village. And that is P1 Duque. Benjamin was over 5 seconds behind. He's also on the Wellington Straight, just coming up towards Brooklands and Luffield. That gap stays at 5.3 seconds. Paul Martin now, having dropped that down to third place, slowly falls away. And 4th place now is mine in the Aston Martin. And just kind of, it does play into what we discussed at the start of the race about we're not sure if the BOP is effective or correct in some ways, because it's Bentley, Aston Martin in the first 4 places, and then a McLaren is 9 seconds off the pace behind them. So, you know, make of that what you will, but that is the facts that we see before us. Banks in P5 is a threat to myself. Being selfish, talking about me, obviously, because that's what I like to talk about, is me. P4 of the championship coming into this round, I'm having a really difficult time. Banks is only 5 points behind me. And looking at these relative positions with Banks in P5 and Beeswax Racing 833 having done a miraculous recovery up to P12 now, that's not good enough. And that place looks like it's going to slip away from me. Becky's under even more of a direct threat, I think, currently in P10. And his 2nd place in the championship. You could have Banks onto him if he doesn't get enough points. Polivka down in P6, 7 seconds behind Banks, so very little chance of catching Banks up ahead. 9 seconds is now the gap to the leaders for Banks. Polivka, as we said, P7 in the BMW. Berija, 5 seconds adrift of the BMW in P7. And it does feel like this is what we're settling down to for the end of the race. Only if somebody gets a penalty from the stewards in the race, drive through at this point, as all the pit stops are done, will we see any change of the order at the front. Aero Smudge is very slowly closing in that gap to Berija, but I don't think there's enough time left in the race, really, 20 laps in. So we're about 40-45 minutes into the race now. But he's in P8. Good result for Aero Smudge, even if it finishes this way. 4 seconds behind Smudge is Thurax for CCS, now in P9. He's got Becchia for company, and this is perhaps turning into the closest fight at the front of the field. Becchia now just 0.9 of a second behind the Ferrari of Thurax. Juveno, I think, has not managed to close the gap to Becchia up ahead of him. And the Porsche Beeswax has slowly closed in on Juveno. Gap now 2.78 seconds. I'm going to emphasise again that the Porsche was a bloody nightmare here at Silverstone. Getting 4-wheel slides in most of the corners. Accuray P13. No gap there yet on the sector computer. Oh, it's a 7-second gap, so Accuray unlikely to be able to catch the 833 Porsche. Savink, for some company, is but 1.7 seconds the gap to Accuray ahead. Kaminsky's slipped down to P15, so must have made a mistake perhaps, or slid off a track slightly somewhere to have lost those places. He was ahead of Accuray and Savink earlier on, so he's got to keep an eye on Byford behind him in P16. Murphy has recovered to P17, but he's 5 seconds adrift of Byford up ahead. He'll be very disappointed with that. He was, I think, top 3 finish, if not winning, in both the practice races, and he really wanted to carry that form forward into this round, but it's just not happened. But getting from a last in the field, I think at one point, back up to P17, shouldn't be looked upon badly. Schmijak, P18, 5 seconds adrift of Murphy, unlikely to be able to catch him. Seller for CCS, we saw Seller a long way up the field earlier on, but look at that BMW just drifting wide there, going through cups. The BMW Lord Nem trying to find a way through in the Maggots and Beckett's. You might want to follow this one. It looks like Lord Nem wants to get this pass done. He said he needs to get a good exit here and onto the hanger straight and make that move down into Stowe. And he does look like he's got in a good position, Lord Nem. BMW versus BMW. Closing in. He's closing in. He's not quite close enough to have a look. But you can see how much Seller's BMW is moving around, much more than Lord Nem's. So he's struggling, but he managed to sit on the apex there. No way through for Lord Nem on that one. And he has a good dive. Bit of late braking, goes wide, but Seller gets the switch back and takes the position back again. And that will put Lord Nem on the back foot now as he go through the Hamilton straight up towards Abbey and into the village complex. too far back now, but there's a big braking zone coming up into the loop. They just get around the village itself. Should be able to close right back up on the back of Sella again, coming out of his complex. And Brooklands is not the easiest to do an overtake. You can try and get up the inside and force the other driver to take a wider line, but then they will get the inside for Luffield, so it's a very, very hard place to pass. But Lord Name doesn't stop that from allowing him to have a look. Sella really struggling on the braking. You can see the car moving relative to Lord Name. He's closing in rapidly, and then Lord Name has to get on the brakes to avoid Sella. As predicted, Sella gets the inside for Luffield. Means forcing Lord Nem to the outside. That may allow Lord Nem to get on the throttle earlier, try and get a run down towards Copse, but passing in Copse is very, very difficult unless you get a great run and you're definitely on the inside before you go into Copse. Coming out towards Maggots and Beckett's again, and again you want to try and get onto the back of the driver ahead, get a good Maggots and Beckett's, get out onto that hangar straight with a little bit of an overdrive, and you want to try and get the inside by the time you get up to Stowe. Is he going to do it this time? This is the closest battle on track now as we come towards the end of the race. 0.2 of a second gap. Lord Nem pulls across to the right, but he's just nowhere near close enough to even get a look in there. Maybe trying to hopefully try and put Sella off by moving in his mirrors. Now look how big the gap is between the two of them. No chance of making a move this time going into club. Back round again towards the Hamilton straight. Big slide there from the BMW of Lord Nem. Sella needs to take a breath. Try and keep calm with Lord Nem moving around in his mirrors all the time. Difficult, but if you can focus on your own lap times and relax, you will eventually usually manage to pull away from the car behind as they throw everything, including the kitchen sink, at trying to find a way through, which isn't easy. Closes up again, going through the village complex. Going to come around onto the Wellington straight now. Sella is managing to keep cool and calm under fire and not make any mistakes. Through into Brooklands. Oh, Lord Nem nearly caught the back of Sella's car then. Had to go to the right, and he's just at a huge disadvantage now all the way through the rest of Luffield and Woodcote. Needs to try and get on the back of Sella again as they go through Copse, so we can get Maggots and Beckett's close enough. Sella ahead to try and make that big move down into Stowe. There's a big slide there as we go through Copse. Not too big a distance ahead is Sella. If Lord Nem can do a very good Maggots and Beckett's, he might get onto the back of the BMW. At the moment the gap looks too big, even before we get into Maggots and Beckett's, that by the time they're back on the hangar straight, just won't be close enough. Oh, he goes really wide. Sella went very wide then. And that's given Lord Nem an opportunity. He's closing right up on the left-hand side. Sella's gone defensive for the inside of Stowe. They're almost alongside each other. He lost a lot of speed there. Lord Nem has to hold it out. He has to get the grip. He's got the better position already for going into club. And he's fluffed it. Lord Nem's fluffed it. He went wide, caught the curb, lost grip. And Sella managed to live for another day. So we're really pleased we managed to catch Lord Nem really stuffing that one up there, because he'll be thrilled to bits to watch that one back. Pushed a bit too hard going through Stowe, got wide onto the curbs. The rear tyres lost traction, and all of a sudden the speed dropped out of the BMW for Lord Nem and allowed Sella back in, and now he's clear again. So a little bit flustered under the opportunity, and because Lord Nem never does highlight shows like this, he can't pick on my fluffed manoeuvres like that, where I'll carefully make sure they don't appear on screen. But Lord Nem nearly had a chance then on Sella, but didn't get it. Didn't happen. Better check where we are in the race. Lap 28 before we finish. We're only on lap 23. Back out front. Duque perhaps taking it easy now. He's got a 4.9 second lead over Benjamin. Paul Martin still 2 seconds behind. Mine looks like he's settling for 4th. He's 5 seconds adrift. Steve Banks. Sorry, no, it is Steve Banks. I knew it was Steve Banks once. Banks is down in P5, 16 seconds adrift of the front 5, so they are definitely away. He's got 7 seconds over Polivka in P6. I think this may be Polivka's first race in this tier, so well done to him. He's looking at a top 10 at the moment. Berija is 1.7 seconds adrift of Polivka, who's in P7. Aero Smudge, nearly 7 seconds down now in behind Berija in P8. But he's got a 6-second lead over Furax, who's definitely not going to catch him. I think we all got 5 laps to go, haven't we? So it'll be a big tall ass. Becchia is P10. And these positions are all stabilised. Juveno. Ah, no, I apologise. Becchia got ahead of Juveno, I believe, didn't he? No. I recall Becchia was 1 place ahead of me. So it's Furax, CCS, Becchia, and then Juveno for CCS, and then Beeswax Racing. P12. Those positions have all been stable, so definitely just Lordnem or Elford. Elford's having a bit of a fight with Corfinas. Looks like he's just got through him as well. Corfinas there in the background of the BMW as Elford gets through. Pleased with that. I think Elford's had a bit of a difficult season, but he got a pass there on Corfinas. Lordnem finally did it. The minute we moved away, we removed the curse. And Lordnem did get the pass done on Sella, so that was the tightest fight on track that happened. Yi has got a drive through down in P24. So he must be banging his head on his steering wheel. I think that is the second penalty possibly for Yi. He goes way wide. Totally got the braking wrong there. Conley and goes through. So he's slipped down already at P28. P27. The leaders behind him. Oh, big slip there from one of the Bentleys. That Martin. Okay. Can't tell. Can't see from that shot who's ahead. I think it may have been Martin. Oh, that's me. Yeah, it's Martin who's just behind them. Trying to get through. Martin really struggling there. I don't know if he's pushed his tyres too hard or something, but we've seen him slide. He overshot one of the previous corners just in the background. He definitely overshot that corner there. So Paul Martin really struggling towards the end of this race. Only a few laps to go. He's got a 5.4 second. Oh, Polivka. Polivka gets his drive through. P6 gets a drive through for track cuts, and he definitely did a bit over the line there just as we cut to him. So that does shake things up. So Polivka gets a drive through with just 4 laps to go. Currently in P6, that will drop him right out of contention. All those drivers behind now. And meanwhile, Beeswax Racing in the Porsche has drawn right up to the back of Juveno in P11. So Polivka will drop out. That will move Becchia up to P9. All these points matter. Oh, and Furax really fluffed it up then. Spun right out. I can assure you, the A33 Porsche was nowhere near Juveno. So all of a sudden, a top 10 finish looking possible from last in the field for the Beeswax Racing 833. Shows you it's worth to keep on pushing and keep trying. So Juveno from P11 recovers and possibly letting the red mist there as he goes wide again and spins again. Needs to calm down, get himself back together. He'll be fuming there having lost that P11. With a gentle spin, the rear end just came around on him. I think we were coming out of the village complex and onto the Wellington Straight. Juveno, when the computer settles down. Oh, Polivka double blows it. He's overshot into the pits, and Polivka's got a stop-go 30, so his race totally ruined in the last 4 laps. Juveno is now P15 on the computer, so he lost a lot of places there. Polivka, well, that's just a total disaster. He rejoined behind Beeswax, so he's down in P11 at the moment, but that stop-go 30 means the race is really over for him. He's going to rejoin back down in the 20s, I would imagine, on the field. Looking at the gaps, yeah, be way down on the field. So P10 at the very last gasp. Beeswax Racing, what else could happen in the last few laps? Can confirm, I think it was around this point I reached 3 cut warnings. I got 2 cut warnings for spins, stalling and losing places, which I thought was interesting. And then I think I just slid wide on one of the exits, possibly from cops. And I got another cut warning for that, even though I didn't really gain much of anything from it. But right behind Becchia. So the fight at the front of the championship still quite close then. And he's having a good look, Becchia, at Furax, who's up ahead of him. He's closed right in on the back of the Ferrari. But we are running out of race for Becchia to make that big move to try and get a few more points gap on the 833 Beeswax in the Drivers' Championship, because I think these two will be coming quite close to each other as the season. We're at the midway point of the season, and by the time we get to the end, the way the points and the results are shaping up, it could be that Becchia and Beeswax are quite close in the championship, so every point will count, really. Banks well clear of both Becchia and Beeswax, looking in a good position to possibly get into the top 3 of the Drivers' Championship by the end of this race. We'll have to see how the points pan out. Mine as well in P4 managed to close in. We saw Paul Martin struggling a lot on the circuit, so Paul Martin has dropped away from the front 2. Gap now to Benjamin is 5.6 seconds, and he's fallen back towards mine. The gap to mine now just 2.8 seconds. So not a great end to the race for Paul Martin. Becchia has dropped back from Furax. He had a big chance. Maybe Furax made a big mistake. The Beeswax Racing Porsche 833 sniffed an opportunity, has really got the foot down towards the end of the race, trying to close in on Becchia, but rapidly running out of laps to make a difference. Gap now 2.3 seconds. And Polivka into the pits to serve that stop-go 30. So a nightmare. Good P6 he was looking at. He's going to rejoin the circuit now. We'll stay with him as the computer will clear. Not got another one, has he? He's done it again. Polivka served the stop-go 30. Oh no, now it's cleared. I thought he got a second one then, because the computer was taking so long to clear the penalty. I thought he'd picked up a second stop-go 30 while serving the first one. But no, he's cleared that penalty down. And he looks... Berzniak looks to be a long way behind. He's showing P20, but no P21. So that's one of the leaders in the background. It shows you how much time Polivka lost with that penalty. I could just see one of the Bentleys in the background, and it looks like he will, from P6 all the way down to P21, thanks to a drive-through and then a stop-go 30 as a result of speeding in the pit lane. But the rules are the rules, and you've got to obey them. Moves everybody up a little bit. Morphy, who said before was hoping for great things from this race, now in P16. More evidence that even if you're last in the field early on in the race, it's worth it to keep plugging away. You can recover. So he's up to P16. Beeswax Racing 833 up to P10 from last in the field. So good demonstrations of why you should never really give up in a race. Mine, meanwhile, at the front of a race, we've only got about 1 lap to go, but he's right now on the back of Paul Martin, who's been struggling towards the end of the race. He's lost more time to Benjamin ahead of him. The gap ahead is 7 seconds, so it's less a case of mine, I think, pressing on, than more a case of Martin falling back to him. Can he do anything though? There's not a lot of time left. Okay. Way clear of the, well, clear 2.6 seconds clear of Benjamin. You just see him in the background there as they're coming down. Looks like the Wellington straight towards Brooklands through Luffield. This will be to finish lap 28, I think, and then on to lap 29. See which if the finishing flag's being waved from these angles. He pulls over, and that indeed is victory for Duque. I think mine just run out of time as they go across the finish line. There you are. P4 for mine on this race. And let's go and have a look at the full official race results and see how things panned out. Both the drivers and the team's championship following the race at Silverstone. There we go, that concludes the race at Silverstone. Let's have a look at the official race results. Manuel Duque then for Gently Bentley, easily clear of the rest of the field, I think, with 100 points on the board. In second place, Adam Benjamin for Rev Sport International. Really good result for that team. That will really move them forward in the team's championship. Unfortunate for Charlotte, where she had the obvious connection issues right at the start of the race. Otherwise, it may have been a really big haul of points for that team. Third place, Paul Martin for Gently Bentley, again in getting more points on the board for that team. Fourth place, mine for Green Car Racing. Takes away 72 points from this round. Steve Banks was in fifth place, and that is a good result for him because his main competitors for the Drivers' Championship do finish behind him. In sixth place, Pukuljak Barija finished in sixth. Daniel Smith for Visually Impaired Racing was seventh. Well done, Aero Smudge. Pascal Furax for CCS hung on to 8th place under real threat towards the end of the race from Camille Becchia, who finished 9th. And I think as we saw as the race unfolded, a bit of an amazing drive really, I feel, from A33 Beeswax Racing. Did qualify 10th, went off on lap 2, went off again, was right down the back of the field, pitted early and managed to come back to finish 10th. So that is a bit of a save, but I don't think it'll be enough in the Drivers' Championship with Banks a lot further up the road. Looking outside the top 10, Matthias Akare for Green Car Racing finished in 11th. That will help the team's points. It's a tight battle at the head of the team's championship. Frederic Juvenot for CCS. We saw him spin out towards the end of the race and looked like he was getting frustrated with himself, but did recover to 14th. Blind Guy Murphy had a terrible start and finished right down at the back of the field, managed to recover and finish in 15th place for Visually Impaired Racing. Lord Nem also had a few issues in this race. The second Beeswax race set finished in 17th. Looking further down the field, a lot of non-finishers here from P29 onwards. Rudolf Dravniak's non-finisher, Skokajic as well. Adam Burks we saw getting that drive for stop-go 30, I think, and at that point he lost all his morale. Eduardo Tripiana we saw struggling, he also got stop-go 30s. Carlo Babic. Charlotte Perkins we saw at the start for Red Sport International having significant connection issues and dropped out. Nikita Linick didn't finish, and we saw that Jeff Irwin got disqualified for some reason during the race. I've not found out why yet. Looking at the Drivers' Championship then from Silverstone, Manuel Duque with another victory is now 107 points clear of mine for Green Car Racing in second place. That is really looking like it'll be the battle of the championship between those two at this point, unless something is done to reel in the Aston and the Bentley, because that does appear that they are super strong cars in this season across all tiers. Camille Becchia slips down one place into third place. He's now 20 points behind mine. Steve Banks moves up one place into fourth. Beeswax Racing, the slide continues for the 833 Porsche. I slip down one more place to fifth. Adam Benjamin leaps up the table with that fantastic result, moves up 6 places for Rev Sport International into 6th. Paul Martin, also a decent result in third on the podium, and he moves up 3 places to 7th. Murat Savink drops 1 place to 8th. Lord Nem drops 3 places with ended up probably with a quite disappointing finish down in 17th. And Pascal Furax moves up 3 places inside the top 10 for CCS. Where are we with the team's championship? Gently Bentley Racing now, Paul Martin and Manuel Duque have got 531 points. Green Car Racing, Matthias Akare and A Mine are 150 points behind the lead team. Mine got a good result today. Akare did struggle a little in the rain, but if both those drivers can get it together, because Akare's had good results as well, they could bring the fight to Gently Bentley. Third place slipping down, I feel, in terms of points. Steve Bezic and Lord Nem for Beeswax Racing, now 52 points behind Green Car Racing. And the team that has now appeared in the championship, because they have paired up, we're quite a long way in the season, it's unusual to have teams manage to register 2 drivers this late on. But past sim racing team Carlo Babic and Camille Becchia have got 288 points. They are 41 points behind Beeswax. But Babic will need to improve his results alongside Becchia if they're going to really move up the table further. Becchia's been getting some decent results, but we did see him struggle today. So no movement really in the top 4, but the points and the gaps are starting to increase. In 5th place, RevSport International move up 1 place. That great result for Adam Benjamin gets them above CCS. If Charlotte is able to resolve connection issues, given that she qualified in 2nd, the RevSport International team could make a late charge up the table. 6th place then, dropping back 1 place, Pascal Furax and Fraser Juvenot dropped down just 11 points behind RevSport International. And Visually Impaired Racing remain in 7th. Aero Smudge and Blind Guy Morphy are just 15 points adrift, so that fight's still quite close between 5th, 6th and 7th. And Nighthawks, again, no points on the board. I don't believe Sterrett and Giles Harding raced today. So there we are, that's the action from Silverstone and where we are the Drivers and Teams Championship. Next up, it is Zolder in Belgium, another track that seems to favour the Bentley from what I'm hearing, and possibly the Aston Martin as well. So we'll see how that one goes. That's another hour-long race, and that'll be taking place on Tuesday this coming week, and it'll be live streamed from the 833 Porsche cockpit with me, giving you some wonderful narration as we drive along, and there should be a commented review of the race following along shortly afterwards. Thanks for watching, hope you've enjoyed this, and do feel free to leave your comments below on what you think about the BOP and the way it's affecting the results for both the Bentley and the Aston Martin across all the tiers. See you soon, thanks for watching, cheerio and bye bye.